Hello, hello, hello. Hello, you early birds. So happy to see you. I'm RoMa Johnson. I'll be your host for the Tea with the Druids tonight, and I'm so glad to be here with you and so happy to just have a chance to talk to you. Some of you I've met before and known before, others are going to be new to me. So I think we've got another, here we go. So please let me know your name and where you're coming in from so that I can greet you and tell you how glad I am to see you tonight. So I see Kai and I see Jan and I see Celine from Lyon. I see Tina. I see David from, my goodness, it's coming in so fast. I can't see. I see Glastonbury, Bournemouth, Colorado. Wow, Louisiana, Switzerland. So I'm hoping some of you are warm. It's very cold and crummy here. So good evening from France, Alexandria, Virginia. Bonsoir. This is great. Amsterdam, West Yorkshire, Newcastle upon Tyne, oh, this is great. Edinburgh, Germany, Glastonbury, Ireland. This is so lovely seeing all of you just popping in. I feel like I'm in a crowd of friends. Some of you I've seen many times before, some of you never before. Buffalo, Niagara, great. Lancashire, right. Limerick. Wow, this is just great. This is like sitting at the center of the globe and just seeing it light up all around me. I'm just kind of in awe of this fabulous technology we have nowadays. I was telling someone who was very young, who was complaining about her slow internet the other day. And I said, well, those of us who are old remember when we had to get up at 4 a.m. in the morning to call our mothers on holidays because the trunk lines, the long distance lines would fill up and you couldn't get through. And I said, so it's the same problem. It's just a different era. But I'm glad you're all on Ipswich. Oh, I used to live in Ipswich, California, Portsmouth, Northamptonshire. Thank you for the comment about my hair. Love and best from Wisconsin. Liz, hello. Beth, hello. Carol, hello. This is wonderful. This is really great. I think I'll just sit here. I'm not going to talk. I'm just going to sit here and read names because I'm just so, hi, RoMa from Colorado. Hi, Terry Lynn. Oh, I'm so happy to see you from Colorado. This is great. I remember you well. Diane, Jan, Stephanie, Jacqueline from the Netherlands. Oh, this is just really great. Really great. So, hello. Hello and welcome to all of you. And let me see if I can take my eyes off the screen over here because I'm just so glad to see you. Last week I watched Carrie's Tea with a Druid about Druid magic, and it was just so compelling. It was really, really wonderful broadcast. And if you didn't have a chance to watch that, go back and watch that. That was really terrific. Tonight, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to have a feast. I thought that would be an apt topic for what's going on in this season. And I thought I'd start with this ancient Celtic welcome, because feasting is always about welcome. And it goes like this: Hail, guest, we ask not what thou art. If friend, we greet thee, hand and heart. If stranger, no such longer be. If foe, our love shall conquer thee. Is that great? I love that. Hail, guest, we ask not what thou art. If friend, we greet thee hand and heart. If stranger, such no longer be. If foe, our love shall conquer thee. Oh, it's a great, great little poem for this time of year. I'm in Princeton, New Jersey, where it's cold and gray and just about sunset. And here in North America, we're in the period which we call the holiday season, all caps. The holiday season starts with Samhain, only we call it Halloween, which is all about kids and costumes and mayhem and tomfoolery and all that sort of thing. We move seamlessly on to Thanksgiving, where families gather, and the sequence in American families goes something like this. I'm not kidding. Families gather, enduring egregious travel from vast distances in the name of love, to overeat, argue politics, leave early in a huff, vow never to speak to these people ever again, go home, and eagerly await next year's gathering. This repeat year after year. There's always a big fight around the Thanksgiving table. I look forward to it. I think it's great fun. Anyway, so we begin putting up Christmas trees and decorations and lights, lots of lights, inside and outside our houses on the day after Thanksgiving, and we don't take them down till mid-January. So from October 31st to mid-January, through the solstice, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, New Year's, all of these become the holiday season. And we gather and we give thanks and we feast and we feast and we feast. And that's how it goes. So if you're not an American, you can't even imagine what this is like. You either love it and get into it, or you hate it and think it's a consumer nightmare that's a plot to take your money from you and force you to get vaccinated. Personally, I think it's a blast. Love parties, bring it on. I thought I would tell you something funny though. For years, my late husband Glenn and I attended the ecumenical Thanksgiving in Ashland, Oregon. Now, Ashland, Oregon is a very arty place. There's an annual Shakespeare festival. There's lots of artists and all kinds of different people live there, old hippies, new artists, whatever. And so they would have this ecumenical Thanksgiving service. And all the woo-woos and spiritual folk gathered on Thanksgiving morning, and sort of in the spirit of all one world. Okay. And it's so about 50 of us would go, and sometimes fewer, but there was always quite a crowd. And we'd sit on folding chairs in a rented church hall, right? And there was a table set up as a makeshift altar. And as a representative of each tradition came forward, a candle was lit and put on the altar. Now remember, this is all traditions, all one world. And it went something like this. And you have to really allow yourself to picture this because it was quite something. So Swami Tai, that was his name, Swami Tai was dressed in his full regalia, and he had a giant conch shell, which he knew how to blow. So he would blow with this huge blat of noise. I can't imitate a conch shell. But anyway, and he would announce each person or each group's representative in turn. And it would go something like this. And now we will hear from the Sufi tradition. And a group, or one or two or three, would get up and they'd do some twirling and some dancing, light their candle. And then Swami Tai would say, and now we will hear from the Jewish tradition. And someone would come up and they would intone a chant or a prayer and light their candle. And now we will hear from the pagan tradition. You get the picture. And the pagans would come and strew leaves and greenery. And now we will hear from the Christian tradition. And the Christians would read something out of the chapter of Mark or something like that. You never knew. And now we will hear from the Native American tradition. And there would be drumming. And now we will hear from the Buddhist tradition. And we would all chant Om together as if we knew what it meant, okay? And this went on and on. I mean, there were lots more groups. I won't go into too much more of this, but there were just probably another 6 or 7 of them. And it went on for a good, easily an hour, almost 2 hours, with the conch blowing and the different traditions getting up and doing their thing. And we would all wait till all had been represented prayerfully and joyfully in ecumenical bliss. And then we would close with this ecstatic circle of divine love, and we would hold hands, and it would be wonderful. And then it would be over, and we would devolve into our representative sects and start vituperously and lengthily squabbling and fighting over how to put the chairs away. Not there. The green ones go over there. No, they don't. The red ones go over there. No, they do not. We have always put the blue ones there. And this would go on until we had completely lost our ecumenical feeling for one another, at which point we would all go up to my friend Lucy's house and feast. And that was Thanksgiving. Isn't it great? Oh, I'd like to go there right now. Anyway, I thought you might just get a kick out of that because it was so silly and so touching and so absolutely dear. Absolutely dear. So I want to go on and read you a poem that kind of goes along with this theme about feasting and coming home. This one, in a sense, is more about coming home to yourself, and it's called The Guest House. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they're a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still, treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Isn't that lovely? Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. I love that. So here we are, lots of more comments. Forces of light, rebirth. Oh, that's lovely. Beautiful poem. Thank you. So glad to see all of you guys. This is just wonderful. So anyway, the theme is feast. And I thought rather than go on too much longer, I would actually invite you to go with me and we would experience this feast together, a feast in the forest. It's as a guided meditation or visualization if you're up for it. So should we go to the forest and have a feast? Let's get started. Let's get started. Close your eyes if you want to, if you feel comfortable about that. Check your breathing. I think it helps to breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4. Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4. One more time. Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4. And just feel yourself relaxing and at ease in your space. And when you're ready, in your mind, imagine yourself getting up and walking to the door and stepping outside. And stand for a moment and orient yourself with the door at your back and see a path opening up before you. And begin to walk down the path. It's a beautiful path. And as you walk down the path, just imagine while you're walking that you could host a feast and invite anyone you want, living or dead, seen or unseen, historical or current, famous or familiar. Who would you invite? Who would you invite to your feast? Think about that. Just come up with a couple of names or more, maybe. Someone that you want to really honor, someone you miss, someone you want to be close with. Who are the guests at your feast? And think of how you might seat them at the feast. Always a big thing. Who sits next to whom? And figure out what kinds of conversations they would have with one another. Tina says, my Nana and David Bowie. I wonder what kind of a conversation they will have. Very nice. And keep walking and thinking about people you want to add, or maybe people you want to make sure don't get invited to your feast, like rude Uncle Ralph, for instance. And you find yourself entering a forest. Take a minute away from your fantasy here and just notice your surroundings. Always important. Notice the trees, what kind of trees. If you're in the north, the trees have lost their leaves. In the south, the trees are coming on full. Listen to the birds chirping. Listen to the sound of the trees moving in the breeze. Pay attention to the rocks. Pay attention to the brush. Perhaps even hear a V of geese honking along the flight lane overhead. Yeah. Inhale deeply. Oh, and take in the sense of the leaves and the trees and the freshness of the air. Deep, deep inhalations. Just being glad to be entering this forest on this beautiful day. And walk along until the path widens, opening out into a large circular glade surrounded by stately trees. And in the center of the circle is a large wooden table, perfectly crafted with beautiful carved benches all around it. You notice that the table is set for guests. Plates and goblets for a number of guests. In fact, just the number of guests you imagined on your walk through the forest, plus one or two for the unknown guest due to arrive. Sumptuous food and drink are provided, and candles blaze along the center. And one by one, your honored guests start to arrive, and you greet them, perhaps say, hail and welcome, hail and welcome. Yes, I see some of you are inviting Uncle Ralph. Fine. There's always one. Okay. Hail and welcome to each of your guests, and make sure that they're seated exactly where you want them to be. Okay? And start your feast. Pass the goblets, pass the wine, pass the various dishes, heap up your plate and start to eat. And everything tastes wonderful. And while you're eating, you notice that additional personages have arrived. You didn't even know, but there they are. And one of them is a poet. And he stands up and he recites a long poem about a long ago battle waged at the edge of time. And when he sits down, another stands and recites a chronicle of some crossing, perhaps over the ice bridge in winter, or over the sand dunes, a long crossing, a long recitation. Another sings a song of whales and waves and foundering seas, perhaps. Each poem tells a story, some from long ago, some from just yesterday. And as they lift their voices in turn, the animals of the forest start to creep near so they can hear. And the trees bend in toward the voices. And the birds settle in closer in their branches. Perhaps one of the birds comes forth and tells the tale of the long migration. And another bird brags of the biggest fish. And a stag steps forward and demonstrates the intricate steps of the spring dance. And the forest folk and the she arrive. And one of them sings a very long poem in a very old language while all this feasting is going on. And on through the night, the feasting and the recitations continue. And even the guests you have invited, each take their turn. I see Ben Franklin, my great aunt Gertie, my grandmother Violet. Mr. Bonowitz is here. Each of them stepping forward, each of them with their own story or song or poem. Even rude Uncle Ralph gets his turn. Okay. And at last, it is your turn. And you stand up and you tell your story. Take your time. What is your story that you want to share, even with James Bond, Kermit the Frog, Peter Falk? They're listening as you tell your story. Maybe you want to sing your story, and that's okay too. And maybe you want to dance your story because it's your turn and you have the stage. And you finish your story, As the day begins to lighten and the morning star hangs over the east, and one by one the attendees begin to take their leave. Back into the forest, back into their own times, each richer for the stories they have told and heard. And when the table is empty, there you are in the glade. You take a crust of bread from the last of the loaf and put it in your pocket for the journey home. And walking back along the path, your stomach full of rich food and drink, your mind and heart full of poetry and song, the familiar trees, the familiar rocks, the hedges you passed on the way to the feast. Just coming awake at the dawn. And you come at last to see your own familiar house. So before you go in, take a moment and orient yourself. Perhaps turn in a small circle, just orienting yourself, maybe northeast, southwest. Use all your senses. What do you hear? What do you smell? What do you taste? What do you feel? As you come back into the present moment. And enter the house and come back into your space and bring your awareness to your breath. 4 in, hold, 4 out, four in, hold, 4 out. And when you're ready, if you choose, open your eyes. Hello. Hello, welcome back. What a feast, huh? All my favorite foods. None of them are allowed in my diet anymore, but I love them. All my favorite foods. And I must say, I really enjoyed seeing Merlin and Mary Oliver sitting next to each other in conversation. That was probably the best moment. I was just wanted to overhear what they were talking about, those two. Oh, look at these nice things. A great experience for those who can't gather in groups. That's true here in Princeton, too. We're still masked and distanced, and we would love to have one of those moments when we can sit around the table together. Okay. Here's a really wonderful welcoming song from the old book Carmina Gadelica, which I happen to really love. And it's a welcoming song, and it says, "We saw a stranger yesterday. We put food in the eating place. drink in the drinking place, music in the listening place, and with the sacred name of the triune God, he blessed us and our house, our cattle, and our dear ones. As the lark says in her song, often, often goes Christ in the stranger skies. In the stranger skies, indeed. I love that. I love that. Food in the eating place, drink in the drinking place, music in the listening place. Oh, that's the best. Look at this. People liked their feasts. Lovely party. We didn't even get blasted, huh? Okay. So I think I'm going to close this tea with the Druid, but I want to close with another poem. And this is a poem by Jo Harjo from her lovely book called She Had Some Horses. It doesn't exactly relate to the feast, but I offer you this poem as a gift of love during this hectic, chaotic, lovely, crazy-making season. It's called Remember. Remember the sky that you were born under. Know each of the stars' stories. Remember the moon. Know who she is. Remember the sun's birth at dawn, that is the strongest point in time. Remember sundown and the giving way to night. Remember your birth, how your mother struggled to give you form and breath. You are evidence of her life and her mother's and hers. Remember your father. He is your life also. Remember the earth whose skin you are. Do you love that? Remember the earth whose skin you are. Red earth, black earth, yellow earth, white earth, brown earth. We are earth. Remember the plants, trees, animal life who all have their tribes, their families, their histories too. Talk to them. Listen to them. They are alive poems. Remember the wind. Remember her voice. She knows the origin of the universe. Remember you are all people, and all people are you. Remember you are this universe, and this universe is you. Remember all is in motion, in growing in you. Is you, is growing. Remember language comes from this. Remember the dance language is, that life is. Remember. You are all people and all people are you. You are this universe and this universe is you. Remember all is in motion, is growing, is you. Remember language comes from this. Remember the dance languages that life is. Remember. I see the effect that the sunset's coming in the window back here. I think the spirit of Joe has come into this room and blessed us all. Isn't that marvelous? I didn't do that. I wish I could do that. But it's just absolutely stunning, isn't it? It's just pouring through the windows. That's the sunset that's coming right through the windows. Lovely. All right. Thank you so much for sharing your feast with me. I have enjoyed your company so much. And I shall read your comments again with delight tomorrow. I always love hearing what you say. I love hearing who you had with you at your feast. And I'm going to work on that with mine because I only got as far as Merlin and Mary Oliver, and then I got so sidetracked. couldn't go on. So anyway, thank you so much for letting me be a part of this. And oh my God, this sunset is cracking me up. It really is cracking me up. God love you all. Happy season. Happy holiday season. Take care of yourselves and take care of the ones you love and hold them dear. And happy holidays, all of them. Okay, bye-bye.